Welcome to the Experience Darden podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, I'm excited to share my recent conversation with Olivia Pavco-Giaccia. Olivia is a second-year student in our Full-Time MBA Class of 2022, and she is also the president of the Community Consultants of Darden student organization. Olivia and I recently connected to talk more about her background, how she decided to pursue an MBA, what led her to Darden, and so much more. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. So without further ado, here is my interview with Olivia Pavco-Giaccia. Olivia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here. We're recording this on a Friday. The sun is shining here in the Washington, D.C. metro. How is your day going?
Oh, my day has been pretty phenomenal. I actually got the chance to ride at the Barracks, which is the UVA club riding team location, about 7 minutes from Darden. So beautiful day outside on a horse. I definitely can't complain.
Wow. How long have you been? I mean, is this I imagine equestrian stuff has been a lifelong pursuit. Is this correct?
It has. And I'm so lucky. Charlottesville is a great place to do it. The UVA riding team is composed of folks from all ages, all backgrounds, all schools at UVA. And it's a really great community of people, a really great facility. So I've been trying to take advantage while I'm here in Charlottesville.
I would chalk that up as one of the benefits of being in Charlottesville for students. It's a little bit harder to achieve that maybe in Manhattan or Chicago or some of these places. So well, let's talk a little bit more about you. So glad to hear you're having a good day. And one of the things that we always enjoy as part of these podcasts is setting the stage a little bit. So tell us a little bit more about you, your background. What did you do before coming to Darden?
Sure. So I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. I went to Yale undergrad and I studied cognitive science. While I was there, I founded a company called LabCandy, which was focused on encouraging young women and girls in STEM. When I graduated, my intention was to work on LabCandy full-time, but I took a little detour, ended up working for the very end of the Obama administration in 2016. I was there at the White House through January 2017. When I left and I decided that I wanted to travel and teach science. So I started going to rural and underserved areas, places like Wichita, Kansas, Branson, Missouri, Ferrum, Virginia, Bronx, New York. Met some really smart, really talented students. I would run these kind of science and innovation workshops. I had a student who actually asked me to start a YouTube channel so she could keep up with my life. So I did that. I started making videos in my backyard, and I was only a couple of videos in when a production company out in LA reached out to me. And together, I wrote, pitched, and then sold that series that I was making on my YouTube channel to Facebook Watch at the inception of that platform. So I moved out to LA to rent a big studio and turn it into a real series. I ended up staying out in LA for about 3 years, living my Bill Nye the Science Guy fantasies, creating educational science content, mostly for women and girls across a variety of platforms.
I have so many questions about what you just shared. So we're going to hang here for a second. So first of all, how did you come up with the idea for LabCandy?
LabCandy grew out of an experience that I actually had in high school. So in my junior year, somewhere after my junior year of high school, I was working at a lab in Stanford. I was doing neuroscience research, and I had a blog that was focused on encouraging young women and girls in science. On that blog, I posted a picture of myself wearing some sparkly lab goggles that I had bedazzled. And I was flooded with comments from little girls all over the country asking me where they could get a pair. So that kind of sparked the idea of there's some interest here in these lab goggles. And when I got to Yale, I went to the Yale Entrepreneurial Institute and told them about this idea that I had to make these goggles. I ended up joining their summer fellowship program as the youngest ever fellow at the Institute. and started fleshing out the idea a little bit more. It evolved from just a pair of lab goggles into a kind of kit that included a storybook about a young woman who goes on adventures and solves problems using science experiments. And we ended up winning that final pitch competition at the fellowship, getting a little bit of money, and we were off to the races.
So you come out of Yale, you have this entrepreneurial venture, and you take a detour. You go to work for the Obama administration. How did you make that decision?
I'd always been interested in working for the Obama administration because I had benefited from a lot of the work that their organization did. So Obama had this Educate to Innovate campaign, which had a couple of pillars, one of which was encouraging women and girls in science. And that really set the stage for LabCandy and for my venture, because every time I walked into a room, people were already thinking about this. They were already talking about this in a way that they weren't maybe 5 years before. So I'd always kind of been intrigued at the idea. I applied initially to work for the Office of Science and Technology Policy, but I was informed that it might be a conflict of interest with LabCandy. And so instead, they slotted me into the Violence Against Women team, where I was actually working for the vice president at the time, Joe Biden.
I think I've heard of him. So it's really interesting to hear your venture idea, your passion for women and girls in STEM. It feels like that's an idea, that's a particular topic that's gotten a lot of traction recently. But I'm wondering, what was the impulse for you to say, hey, I want to help work in this space. I want to create this interest and push this forward?
Yeah, it started for me in 8th grade, actually. I was in an advanced science class in my grade school, and I was one of the only women who was in the class, and I was frustrated by that. I come from a family of feminists, and so I actually I Googled women in science, and I found an organization called the National Girls Collaborative Project, which does a lot of advocacy work around that. I reached out to the organization, ended up getting connected with the founder, Karen Peterson, who has really been a mentor for me throughout my entire life, and we're still very close. But she was the one who sort of introduced me into the world of STEM advocacy for girls.
Okay, so you work for the Obama administration, and you decide to go teach science in rural or underserved areas. How does one just decide to do that? Not only decide to do that, but then goes and does that thing? That does not seem like the easiest thing to tap into. There's big country, there's lots of places you could go. And can you just show up and say, I'm here to teach science? Is there a group of students I can work with?
Knock on doors. Some of it was through the kind of personal connections that I had built through my work with the National Girls Collaborative Project, through LabCandy. Some of it was also through a management organization. So I wrote a storybook for LabCandy and got some interest from publishers, and also from a management organization in LA who was interested in potentially trying to turn that storybook into an animated series. So I was already working with them sort of peripherally, and they helped me get some stuff set up. But a lot of it was just organic, people that I knew who were interested and passionate about this topic and willing to let me come and take a couple of days of their students' time.
And what was that like to be out there with those students in these areas where, maybe these conversations are not happening as often, and these kinds of resources are not as prevalent or as available as they might be here in the places like the DC area?
Yeah, it was simultaneously incredible and also frustrating, right? The students that I met were wonderful and brutally honest in the best way. I definitely taught some classes of kindergarten students and had cheese sticks thrown at me if I wasn't interesting enough, which is a great way to learn how to speak publicly and hold people's attention. But I think it was frustrating because I would meet these really, really talented, smart kids who had just totally been let down by the systems around them. And I'm remembering in particular, I had a conversation with a young girl in Ferrum, Virginia, who was interested in starting a robotics club at her middle school. And she came up to me and she said, Olivia, if I start a robotics club, do you think that maybe one day we might get to travel to Richmond for a tournament? I'm like, girl, you start a robotics club, you can go all over the country, all over the world. There's so much out there. There's so much to see, right? But it hadn't even occurred to her because it wasn't in her immediate radius of experience and awareness. So it was great, but it was definitely at times difficult to see.
Does have a way of putting things in focus, making you look at something that is uncomfortable, right? Where you're born, the places where you've lived, like it has a lot of impact on the opportunities that can be available to you and what may be possible. It is not a comfortable idea, not something to be particularly proud of, and it's unsettling.
And that is what really drew me into media, because I wanted to create something that I could leave behind with these young women that I was meeting, right? I wanted something that was easily accessible to them, that would just expand their field of awareness a little bit. I wanted them to see a female scientist who looked like them, who talked like them, who was interested in the same things that they were interested in, who felt accessible and real in a way that maybe their science textbook didn't.
So that brings you to the sort of next thing that you were doing, developing these videos on demand. It sounds like by popular demand, students said to you, I want to know what you're doing. So you say, oh, I'll create a YouTube series, or I'll go out there and create these videos. And LA calls and says, hey, by the way, we'd love to give you a chance to do this in a more formal, produced way. I mean, is that exactly how this came together?
Yeah, I started in my backyard with my mom as my videographer and had a lot of fun with it. I was developing this original series called, I called it Pop Science at the time. And the idea was I was taking moments from popular culture and investigating the science behind them. So things like, Adele released her song Set Fire to the Rain, and I tried to figure out how to make it actually rain fire in my kitchen using hand sanitizer and a complicated metal rig that I had set up, right? So it was very bootleg, but it was a lot of fun. I ended up getting in contact with a production company out in LA who specialized in digital content, short form digital content, and ended up developing the show further, writing a pitch against selling it to Facebook Watch. And then that was the show that really encouraged me to move out to LA and start living there and doing it full time.
Are you someone that is naturally comfortable in front of a camera? Is this something you could have imagined for yourself someday, that you would be filming these short films?
Brett, I have to tell you, my first few episodes are so awkward. I cringe looking back at it. There is something it is completely unnatural. I don't care who you are. It is completely unnatural to stand in the middle of a dark, silent studio with 3 cameras on you, a giant hot spotlight, trying to act as if you're as happy and enthused and, conversational as you would be out in the real world. It's just, it is definitely a learning curve. But after a while, you figure it out and you get used to it. It's a practice skill like anything else.
So you get out to LA and you're working on these videos. At what point do you say an MBA would make a lot of sense for me at this point?
For me, I reached a point where I loved what I was doing. But I was looking for more control over my career, kind of clearer ladder to success, a little more stability. And I also really loved the business aspect, the strategy aspect of the content that I was creating. So I knew I was interested in business school. And when I started looking at where I wanted to go, I knew I was really interested in the case method, because I wanted to be at a school where people were really invested in learning. They're invested in showing up to the classroom. The teachers wanted to be there. They wanted to teach. And so Darden immediately was a place that I was really excited about. I also have an alum connection. My aunt, who is my hero in life, graduated from Darden, and actually also my uncle as well. So I had that family connection. It was close to home. And then I was lucky enough to be the recipient of the Jefferson Fellowship, which really made it an easy decision for me.
All right, I'm going to pause here. We're going to talk about the Jefferson Fellowship, but I want to ask about your aunt. Tell us, why is she your hero?
My aunt, her name is Olivia Pavco. She actually was just back on campus a few weeks ago for a reunion at Darden. I won't say which class she graduated because I don't think she would want me to, but she's my hero because she is just a powerful, confident businesswoman who is at the same time generous and loving with her friends and family. And I've looked up to her for as long as I can remember. I think there's actually a photo of me with both my aunt and my uncle on the steps of Darden when I was 2 years old when they were graduating.
Comes full circle. You got to take that photo again. Graduation.
You're so right. I know, we have to recreate it.
You mentioned being from a family of feminists. How did that shape your upbringing? I mean, it sounds like it was formative for you.
Absolutely. I'm so lucky to have powerful women in my family, and to be raised with the expectation that, man or woman, I'm going to try to go out into the world and be useful to the world in some capacity, and be committed to the causes that I care about. I think you asked me earlier why I'm so passionate about women in STEM. Part of it was my own experience. Another part of it was my grandmother, who always wanted to be a doctor, but was born in the 1920s, where not a lot of women were getting their degrees as MDs. So she ended up being a nurse, but she would always tell me about that experience of wanting to be a doctor and being so passionate about the science of medicine. I think that really shaped my perspective on STEM as well.
All right. Well, thank you for entertaining my slightly digressive questions about how your upbringing has shaped who you are today. I'm just really fascinated by your comment about your aunt. So you are a Jefferson Fellow, and this is the season of Jefferson Fellowship things. There's a lot happening for those prospective students going through that process. And I think you were just involved with a faculty panel not so long ago.
Yeah, it is. This is always a fun time because, the finalists come to campus and we get the chance to meet them. They get the chance to see Darden a little bit. It's been a bit different the past few years because of COVID, but we do still try to keep some traditions going. We recently, we did a faculty panel. I was lucky enough to be the moderator there. And we had some absolute all-stars on board. We had Bobby Parmar, Luann Lynch, and Kinda Hatcham. 3 professors that I've been actually lucky enough to be taught by, both in core and in second year during electives. So it was a lot of fun. And I have to say, I actually learned a lot. Finalists asked really powerful questions. I remember there's one in particular about how the professors try to structure the class during case method while still allowing flexibility for students to kind of come in and share their experiences and shape the conversation. And it was getting the chance to see behind the curtain a little bit, understand how the wizardry happens, and it was incredible. They're so thoughtful, so rigorous about their craft of teaching and so passionate about what they do. It was a great reminder for why I really love this school.
What's it like to be on this side of the process, having gone through the application process and being one of the finalists and then obviously receiving the fellowship?
A little bit less stressful, I will say. I remember sitting in my first case classroom, which, part of the fellowship process is that you give a case, and traditionally when it's in person, they seat all of the kind of Jefferson evaluators around you, around the back of the classroom. So you're being watched as you're doing this case. And I remember just thinking, how do people do this? This is intense. But it was also a lot of fun, and it was an adrenaline rush. And it gave me a great taste for what Darden was really going to be like as a first year. So yeah, a little bit less stressful. But I am so grateful to have been a part of the process, both coming to Darden and now.
And certainly there's resources out there on the website about the Jefferson Fellowship. Would you like to offer just a few thoughts on what this is and why it's so special here at the University of Virginia?
Sure. So the Jefferson Fellowship is something that's not specific to Darden. It's across all of UVA. They offer a handful of merit-based fellowships, which cover not only the entirety of your tuition, but also a generous living stipend and research stipend. So it is a really incredible program. And more so than the funding, it's also a network of really invested, incredible alums who come back every year to the building to interact and share their experiences. It's a great research community. One of my favorite pieces of the program is that I get to go and learn about interesting things that are happening in other corners of the university, go to symposiums and learn about, research in the social science school and chemistry and physics. So it's been a really kind of essential part of my experience at Darden, and I'm so grateful for it.
You're someone who has a lot of passion for science.
Mm-hmm.
Is that still with you? Are you still pursuing that in some way?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm still very actively involved in the National Growth Collaborative Project, that nonprofit that I mentioned earlier. But also certainly through the foundation, right? Whenever I can, I love to go and listen to, especially the STEM-focused research presentations and get to talk to some of the other fellows about what's happening in, social sciences school, cognitive science, which is a particular passion of mine, my undergraduate major. So it's been a lot of fun.
Okay, so you come to Darden, you're a Jefferson Fellow, you're here, you're a first-year student. What was that adjustment like?
I wish I could say that I just floated in and everything was easy and perfect, but Darden is rigorous, and it's something that I actively sought out, right? I wanted to go to a place that was going to push me academically. Darden certainly did that. I remember my first few weeks of core curriculum. I was spending you in class all day and then another 4 hours at night with your learning team. You didn't finish up till 11 p.m. and it was definitely intense. But there is a method to the madness, right? And as time goes on, you start to get a little bit more comfortable, not just with the material, but also, how to participate in a case method classroom, how to, argue your point in a way that is convincing and not defensive, how to engage with your fellow students rather than just with the professor. And things sort of become a little bit more natural over time. So it was a steep learning curve, but I will say that it left me incredibly prepared for my summer internship. I went to Bain, Boston, where I'm headed back full-time after graduation. And I stepped into that context, which, before I came to Darden, totally non-traditional background. After a year at Darden, I stepped into Bain Boston and felt like I was prepared for everything that was in front of me. So
it's a very profound 9 months or so, give or take.
Absolutely.
All right. So now you're in your second year. You're staying busy, undoubtedly. One of the themes of this podcast for our student interviews is first year, you're really busy with school and career stuff. All this stuff is happening in your first year. Second year rolls around, you're picking your classes, and people are somehow even busier is the thing that I start to pick up from talking to second year students. I don't know, does that resonate with you? I mean, what else is on your plate, Olivia?
Yeah, they talk a lot at Darden about how Darden is really student run. And what that means is, as a second year, there's an expectation that you're going to step up and be a part of the community and engage with the clubs and the resources here, and also be useful to the first years as they go through their recruiting process. So I'm involved in a couple of things on campus, my favorite of which is Community Consultants of Darden. It's a club that I am the president of. I was a member of it as a first year, but now get to see it from sort of different perspective on the board as a second year.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Community Consultants of Darden. It is the occasion. I reached out to you. I said, Olivia, can you come on the podcast? Love for you to talk about Community Consultants of Darden, because we get a lot of prospective student questions about this particular organization. What are the Community Consultants of Darden doing? What are the projects that they're working on? And this is really the inspiration. Obviously, we touched on a lot of other things here, but let's talk about the organization. What is this organization all about?
Yeah, so Community Consultants of Darden is a club here on campus. It's actually the oldest club at Darden, founded in 1957, only 2 years after Darden's founding. And it's a club where we offer consulting services to local for-profit and nonprofit businesses in the Charlottesville area. It's really a special group. Essentially, the way it works, we have 8 to 10 projects each year, each with a different organization in Charlottesville. And we run the gamut from, I don't want to give away, we haven't revealed this year's projects yet, so I don't want to give away too much, but it'll usually include, some nonprofits, some local retail stores, places that you've probably walked by hundreds of times in the barracks or on the downtown mall. It'll include startups coming through the UVA system. Sometimes we work directly with Charlottesville local government or even with UVA administration on specific initiatives there. So there's a great diversity of work. Every year we'll ask students to apply, and we'll whittle that down to, usually around 100 applications, whittle that down to about 50 students, and we'll split them into teams of 5 or 6, place them on projects, and then they're really off to the races. We have some kind of structure built in where each project has its own second-year coach, and also it's paired with a specific board member. So there are resources there, oversight if you need it, but we really empower the first years to go off and run it and run those client interactions and craft what they think is going to be the most powerful deliverable for their team.
When will you reveal the new project?
It's a fun process. So what we're doing this year, we're renting out a local brewery, which is actually a former CCOD client. And we're bringing in all the first years, all the second years, some alums, some local business people. And we're going to do a big reveal, walk through all the projects, and then kind of eat dinner and drink together afterwards. It'll be a lot of fun. And that'll probably happen. Actually, it's coming up. It'll be in the first few weeks of December.
All right. Gosh, not so far away for those who are listening. We're recording this Friday in November, early mid-November or so. So just around the corner. Mm-hmm. So what project did you work on as a first year? Can you tell us, or is it only at the high level of detail?
Yeah, no, I can tell you guys. I worked with Fly Dog Yoga, which is actually run by a CCOD alum. So a Darden alum, Community Consultants of Darden alum. So he really got it. He knew exactly what this organization does, how to best utilize our time, how to best scope the project. And gosh, it was so much fun working with an alum of a really iconic local franchise in Charlottesville. If you guys have ever visited Charlottesville, I would highly recommend going to Fly Dog and taking the class. They do wonderful work. But yeah, we worked with him, and it was actually, I don't know if I can give the specifics of the project, but it was related to the pandemic and some of the necessities that came out of that. And I think that what we did was a real value add. I've seen him implement it in his business, and so it's been really rewarding to watch it play out over the last few months.
How did you decide that this was what you wanted to really get heavy into in your second year, to be the president of this organization, to spend a significant amount of time helping to develop these projects and in leading Community Consultants of Darden?
Community Consultants of Darden was really one of the most special parts of my first year experience for a couple of reasons. One, it was the first time outside of my learning team where I really got to work seriously with folks from other sections of Darden. You get assigned your little team, and then you're meeting every week, sometimes multiple times a week, in order to create something that's real, right? And it was also the first time that I was taking what I was learning in the classroom and applying it into the real world in a way that was actually going to make a difference in somebody's life and in the life of a local business. So that was really exciting. I also loved the opportunity to plug in with Charlottesville and plug in with this phenomenal network of alums. Like I said, CCOD has been around for a really long time. We've worked with an enormous number of companies in the area, and also have an incredible network of alums who are still really passionate about their experiences with the club. So it's really fun kind of getting the chance to learn and grow through those connections as well. But I was beyond honored to be elected as the president. I, to be honest, didn't really see it coming. And so when it did, I was really excited. And gosh, I have been absolutely blessed with a brilliant board. This is one of those clubs that the club really is run through our VPs. And we have a phenomenal group of people who are really plugged in, really passionate about what we're doing. And I'm really proud of the progress that we've made so far this year. I think our first years are going to be really excited about the projects that we bring them.
Well, that is great to hear. And I am not surprised. I did not know that the Community Consultants of Darden is the oldest student organization at Darden. I'm not surprised, though, given the school's founding intention of focusing on practical affairs and the actual practitioners of business. It's cool to talk to faculty about, one of the appeals of being at Darden is this is a place that is very focused on actual practitioners. Even the research that faculty do, the consulting that they do, they have that focus. It makes it a bit different than other business schools or other graduate level programs, where they're actually curious about what this looks like in the real world and developing solutions for actual practitioners.
Yeah, and it also makes sense with Darden's broader mission of, find your why, right? That's the story that's always told to us as first years. Why are you doing something? You're not just recruiting because you're recruiting because you want to make some sort of a positive impact on the world. And that's a huge part of CCOD's mission as well. We want to make a positive impact in our community.
How do you feel like this experience has contributed to enhance your student experience?
Oh, so much so. I think that, first of all, it's given me the opportunity to have some really hard and interesting conversations. We had a great conversation this year about CCOD's admissions process and the way that we think about diversity in that context, and the mechanisms that we have in place in order to make sure that we're selecting the strongest, most representative of Darden class. And that's a conversation that I would have never had if I hadn't been a part of this organization on the board, trying to make a difference. So it's been an incredibly important part of my experience, and also given me the chance to work with some really great folks. So I selfishly really enjoy that.
Well, one of the things you will sometimes hear from our second year leaders here on the podcast is that the opportunity to lead a club, an organization, is a chance to practice those things that they're learning in class. And to your point about having an impact and applying the things that you're learning as part of these projects that Community Consultants of Darden works on, sounds like perhaps leadership is also a way to apply some of the things you're learning in class.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had one of my favorite courses from Q1 this year is a class by Sean Martin titled Leadership Learning Lab, in which they kind of gathered together all of Darden's club presidents, and we do a course on leadership at Darden, but also just kind of beyond Darden and life. And it was a really powerful window into some of my own failings as a leader, ways that I could improve, and also just a great opportunity to talk to other people who are in similar positions, who are struggling with some of the same things that that I was, we ended up being a really great resource network. So yeah, it's been a great practical learning experience for sure.
Well, I have to ask, we started off talking about venture that dreamt up and pursued. Is that something that's still with you? This idea of launching your own thing or doing your own thing? Where does that stand?
Maybe one day. My goal for the immediate future is just to go to Bain and do a really good job there, and make a difference there, and be plugged in there. And we'll see. I think there's a part of me that could go there and really enjoy it and stay forever, and then there's another part of me that's like, maybe it'll be a shorter thing. Maybe I'll dip back into the world of startups. Maybe I'll dip into the world of venture capital. I don't know. But at this point, I'm just trying to kind of focus on what's in front of me, and focus on surrounding myself with smart people who are doing interesting things, which I think you can definitely find, certainly at Bain and our Boston office, and also certainly at Darden.
Yeah, I was about to say, no shortage of interesting people here at the Darden School of Business. It's one of the biggest challenges we have with this podcast. We publish on a weekly basis, and there's 335 students per class. There's all the faculty and staff. It feels like you could basically have 2 conversations a day for the next 2+ years and probably not talk to everybody you were hoping to talk to, if the parameters are interesting people. So
well, I'm honored. I'm honored to be here talking with you, Brett. And I will say I'm very spoiled because I get to walk the halls of Darden and go to all the coffees and meet all these people and have these conversations every day in real life. So I'm very spoiled.
Well, Olivia, I wonder what you're looking forward to in the months ahead. I'm sure you have a lot on the books.
What am I looking forward to? Well, first of all, most pressing order of business, we've got the UVA Notre Dame game coming up tomorrow, which is a big deal, and we're all getting ready for the tailgate. I think we've got a couple Darden clubs who are actually sponsoring the tailgate, so it'll be a great community event. Beyond that, I'm really enjoying my classes this quarter. I loved core, and I got a lot out of it academically, but there's something so special about being able to pick your classes second year and really focus in on things that you're interested in, the areas you're interested in growing in, the professors that you really want to work with. I've got an absolutely great lineup this quarter. And so I'm interested in kind of digging into that, staying involved in that. One of my favorite classes, speaking of hands-on learning, is this class called Seed Funds. You apply to it over the summer in between your first and second year. And when you join, you essentially get to be an auxiliary member of the UVA Licensing and Ventures group. So you sit in on every kind of venture pitch and work on the diligences and think about, what are the companies that maybe you want to invest in. That's been a really new and exciting world for me. So I have a couple of company pitches coming up that I've been doing a little work on, and I'm excited to see as well.
All right. Well, that's really cool. The Seed Fund has come up in some of our prior conversations with students. I think there's an EVC, Entrepreneurship and Venture Capital Club conversation or two where the students reference being involved with that on the due diligence side, and how helpful that was to hear and kind of think about how people view these kinds of opportunities and how they're evaluated. Sort of a flip. If you're pitching someone, this is the other end of things, perhaps. Absolutely.
It's really exciting. I've had a lot of experience on one side of the table as an entrepreneur, so it's cool to get to sit on the other side of the table and experience that perspective.
Well, Olivia, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about your venture, we talked about LabCandy, how you ended up at Darden, the Jefferson Scholarship, Jefferson Fellowship process, and what that entails, how things are going with the Community Consultants of Darden. I wonder if you have any final words of wisdom, piece of advice you'd want to share with our listeners.
Final words of wisdom. Well, I certainly don't have it all figured out, but kind of practical advice. Darden is such a special experience, a really whirlwind experience, not just academically, but also you spend a lot of time your second year thinking about personal growth and thinking about the things that you really care about. I'm in this great course right now called Character Traits, where every class we read a different kind of seminal text and discuss what we think are important virtues that we can pull from that text. And what I'm getting at here is Darden is really a place where you come and learn and grow, both as a student, but also as a person. And so when you're coming into Darden, I would take the time to try to do a little bit of pre-work. I know you're probably busy enjoying a little bit of time off before diving back into school, but if you can, engage with some of the resources that Darden has online around, CDY, some of the books that Darden recommends, like Designing Your Life, setting the stage a little bit for the things that you care about, maybe the types of things you're interested in recruiting in, but also the types of activities that you're interested in engaging in once you get to campus. Doing that work in advance will really put you in a good place when you set foot here, because it is such a whirlwind and there's so much going on. You kind of want to have a clear, true north when you come to campus.
That's great advice. It resonates a lot with what's been covered here on the podcast. Previously, one of the near constant sentiments is limited amount of time, things move very, very quickly, and there's a wealth of opportunity. You can go in any number of directions. So the more time you could spend reflecting, thinking about what you're passionate about, what you want to do, and put in that time prior to matriculation, it allows you to maybe cut through some of that, stay open to opportunity, certainly recognize that there's going to be self-discovery and things are going to spark for you that you may not know about at this time. That always happens, but it can help you navigate things when you get really busy and you have a lot of competing priorities, and really kind of figuring out what's most important. That self-reflection is critical.
Absolutely.
Well, Olivia, thank you again for coming on the podcast, and congratulations on all the things that are happening in your second year. We'll have to have you come back when the Community Consultants of Darden projects are finally revealed. But it's been great to hear more about your story, and good luck in the months ahead.
Thank you so much, Brett. It's been a real pleasure.
And that was my interview with Olivia Pavco-Giaccia, a second-year student in our full-time MBA class of 2022. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at Darden, that's DARDEN, @virginia.edu. Until next time, stay safe, be well, and thanks for listening.